Tyler Williams thought he was protecting the restaurant's exclusive image until the family he turned away turned out to own the entire chain. The blood drained from his face as his manager hurried across Maison Azure's polished floor, hand extended, eagerly toward the very people Tyler had just tried to remove. "Mr. Ellis, I'm so sorry I wasn't here to greet you personally." The manager's voice carried across the hushed dining room, drawing curious glances from nearby patrons. Tyler stood frozen, the tablet clutched in his suddenly sweaty hands, as the horrible truth dawned on him. He hadn't just insulted regular customers, he had profiled and dismissed the restaurant's new billionaire owner and his family. 30 minutes earlier, Tyler had been in complete control. He adjusted his pristine white uniform shirt, smoothing down his black vest as he surveyed his domain with pride. At 28, he had clawed his way up to head waiter at Boston's premier dining establishment, where reservations were booked 3 months in advance, and celebrities came to be seen. Crystal chandeliers cast delicate patterns across white tablecloths, while a symphony of conversation and clinking glasses filled the air. This was Tyler's world, and he took pride in knowing exactly who belonged in it and who didn't. "Mr. Donovan at table 12 again," his manager, Philip Clark, murmured as he passed. "VIP treatment. The critic from Boston Dining is at table 7. Kevin's got him." Tyler nodded, his attention already shifting to the entrance where the maitre d' was greeting new arrivals. The restaurant had a carefully cultivated image, and maintaining it was everyone's responsibility. Exclusivity was their brand. Not everyone belonged at Maison Azure, and Tyler took pride in knowing exactly who did. Just then, the front doors opened, letting in a gust of autumn air and a family of 4. Tyler's eyes narrowed as he assessed them. The man wore a simple black sweater over dark jeans, no tie, no jacket. The woman beside him was dressed more formally in a burgundy wrap dress, but it lacked the designer touches Tyler was trained to recognize. Their 2 teenagers, a boy about 16 and a girl perhaps 14, were in casual attire, the boy even wearing sneakers. Tyler watched as they approached Gabrielle at the host stand, noting how they didn't fit the usual Maison Azure clientele. Something about their confident stride gave him pause, but he quickly dismissed it. He had developed a sense for who belonged and who didn't after 5 years working here. "I don't see a reservation," he heard Gabrielle say, her practiced smile firmly in place. "It should be under Ellis." "Dominic Ellis," the man replied, his deep voice calm and assured. Tyler stepped forward, inserting himself smoothly into the conversation. "I handle the VIP reservations," he said with a thin smile. "Let me check." He made a show of scanning the tablet, though he already knew what he would say. The Ellis name meant nothing to him, and everything about this family, from their casual attire to their lack of the subtle signs of wealth Tyler had learned to spot, told him they had wandered into the wrong establishment. "I'm afraid there's been a mistake," Tyler said, looking up from the tablet. "We don't have a reservation under Ellis, and unfortunately we're fully booked tonight." He gestured around the restaurant, where several tables actually sat empty, reserved for walk-in VIPs or last-minute important guests. Dominic Ellis's expression didn't change. "Could you check again? My assistant made this reservation weeks ago." Tyler's smile tightened. "Sir, I know every reservation in this restaurant. If your name was on our list, I would know it." He allowed his gaze to flick briefly to the man's simple attire. "Perhaps you were thinking of Azure Bistro across town. They have a similar name but are more casual." The woman beside Dominic placed a gentle hand on his arm. Her eyes, sharp and observant, caught Tyler's dismissive glance. "Dominic, maybe we should—" "No, Vanessa," Dominic replied quietly. "I'd like to understand why our reservation isn't being honored." The teenage girl sighed loudly. "Dad, can we just go somewhere else? This is embarrassing." Tyler cleared his throat. "Sir, as I said, we're fully booked. Perhaps if you'd like to make a reservation for another night, I could help you with that process." His tone made it clear that even this was a courtesy he was reluctantly extending. "I see," Dominic said, his voice still even. And those empty tables? Reserved, Tyler replied instantly. For our regular clientele. The teenage boy looked around the restaurant, his eyes lingering on an older white couple being seated immediately at one of the supposedly reserved tables. He opened his mouth to speak, but his mother squeezed his shoulder. Jamal, not now, she murmured. Tyler's patience was wearing thin. These people were creating a scene in the entryway, and he could feel the eyes of nearby diners. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, he said, dropping all pretense of courtesy. We have guests waiting. Dominic Ellis studied Tyler's face. For a long moment, something unreadable passing through his eyes. Very well, he finally said. We'll go. Thank you for your time. As the family turned to leave, Philip Clark emerged from the back office, his face lighting up with recognition. Mr. Ellis, he called out, hurrying across the restaurant floor. I'm so sorry I wasn't here to greet you personally. Tyler froze, a cold feeling spreading through his chest. Clark reached the family, extending his hand enthusiastically to Dominic. It's an honor to have you here tonight. I've been looking forward to meeting you since the acquisition. Acquisition? Tyler echoed, his voice suddenly small. Clark turned to him, confusion crossing his features. Tyler, this is Dominic Ellis, the new owner of Maison Azur and the entire Azur restaurant group. His eyes darted between Tyler and the Ellis family. Is there a problem? The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Around them, the restaurant continued its elegant dance of service and dining, unaware of the earthquake happening. In Tyler's world. No problem, Dominic finally said, his eyes never leaving Tyler's face. Your head waiter was just explaining that our reservation has been misplaced. Clark's face paled. That's impossible. I confirmed it myself this morning, and left specific instructions. He turned to Tyler, his expression hardening. Mr. Ellis and his family are to have our best table. Always. Tyler stood paralyzed, the implications crashing down around him. He had just attempted to turn away the owner of not just this restaurant, but the entire restaurant group, his ultimate boss. Perhaps there was a miscommunication, Vanessa Ellis said smoothly, breaking the tension. These things happen. They shouldn't happen here, Clark insisted, shooting Tyler a look that promised consequences. Please, allow me to show you to your table. The chef has prepared a special menu in honor of your first visit. As Clark led the family away, Tyler caught a final glance from Dominic Ellis, not angry, as he expected, but thoughtful and assessing. It was somehow worse than anger would have been. Gabrielle leaned toward Tyler, whispering urgently, Do you have any idea what you just did? That's Dominic Ellis. He bought the entire chain last month. He's worth billions. I didn't know, Tyler whispered back, his mind racing. They didn't look like billionaires? Gabrielle finished for him, her eyebrows raised. What exactly does a billionaire look like, Tyler? The question hung in the air, unanswered, as Tyler tried to process how catastrophically he had misjudged the situation. His gaze drifted to the Ellis family, now being seated at the best table in the house, the one by the window with a view of the Boston skyline. They didn't look angry or triumphant. They simply looked like a family about to have dinner. And just like that, Tyler's carefully constructed world began to crack. In the kitchen, chaos reigned as Chef Laurent barked orders in his French-accented English. The soufflé for table 9, where is it? And the Ellis table gets priority on everything. Everything. Tyler stood by the service station, mechanically preparing bread baskets, his mind still reeling. Clark had assigned another waiter to the Ellis table, but Tyler could feel his manager's glare burning into his back every few minutes. You really stepped in it this time, Kevin murmured as he passed by with a tray of appetizers. Clark's been trying to impress the new owner for weeks. Tyler didn't respond. What could he say? That he had done exactly what he'd been trained to do. Preserve the restaurant's exclusive atmosphere by keeping out those who didn't fit the image. That he had executed his job perfectly, except for the catastrophic detail of not recognizing that wealth didn't always come dressed in Armani. From his position, he could see the Ellis family through the kitchen service window. They were engaged in conversation, seemingly at ease despite the earlier confrontation. The daughter was laughing at something her brother said, while Dominic and Vanessa conversed with their waiter. They looked normal, happy, not at all like people planning to fire him, though Tyler was certain that was coming. Mr. Williams. Clark's voice cut through Tyler's thoughts like a knife. A word, please. Tyler followed his manager to the small office off the kitchen, his stomach in knots. Clark closed the door and turned to face him, his expression unreadable. Do you understand what happened out there? Clark asked, his voice dangerously calm. I made a mistake, Tyler admitted. I didn't recognize Mr. Ellis. Clark's laugh was short and bitter. A mistake? You profiled the owner of this restaurant and tried to turn him away because he didn't look like he belonged here. That's not a mistake, Tyler. That's a catastrophe. Tyler swallowed hard. I was just following our policy on maintaining the restaurant's image. Don't, Clark cut him off sharply. Don't try to justify what you did. Our policy is to provide exceptional service to our guests, not to judge them based on their appearance. He ran a hand through his thinning hair. Do you have any idea who Dominic Ellis is, besides our boss? Tyler shook his head. He grew up in Roxbury, started with nothing, built a tech company that revolutionized supply chain management, sold it for billions, and has been quietly buying up businesses ever since. Clark leaned against his desk. He's also known for his commitment to fair treatment and equality in his businesses. There are rumors he sometimes visits his companies incognito to see how employees behave when they don't know who's watching. The implication hit Tyler like a physical blow. You think he was testing us? I think we failed spectacularly, Clark replied. And I think you're going to go out there and apologize or clear out your locker. Your choice. Tyler stared at his manager, protesting rising to his lips, then dying unspoken. He knew he was wrong. Worse, he knew that this wasn't the first time he'd made assumptions about guests based on their appearance. It was just the first time those assumptions had blown up in his face. I'll apologize, he said quietly. Clark nodded once. Good. And, Tyler, make it genuine. Mr. Ellis seems to be a good judge of character. Tyler approached the Ellis table with his heart hammering in his chest. The family was halfway through their entrees, the conversation flowing easily among them. As he drew near, they fell silent, 4 pairs of eyes turning to him. Mr. Ellis, Tyler began, his voice steadier than he felt. Mrs. Ellis, I wanted to personally apologize for the way I treated you earlier. Dominic Ellis set down his fork and regarded Tyler with that same thoughtful expression from before. Why are you apologizing exactly? The question caught Tyler off guard. He had expected a simple acknowledgement of his apology, not a challenge, to articulate exactly what he had done wrong. I made assumptions based on your appearance, Tyler admitted. I decided you didn't belong here without knowing anything about you. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. Jamal, the teenage son, snorted. That's putting it mildly. Jamal, Vanessa cautioned, though her eyes remained fixed on Tyler. Dominic leaned back in his chair. Do you know why we were dressed this way, Mr. Williams? Tyler Williams. Mr. Williams. Do you know why we were dressed casually tonight? Tyler shook his head. We came straight from my daughter Zoe's debate competition, Dominic explained. We could have gone home to change, but she was hungry, and I promised her dinner at the best restaurant in Boston to celebrate her win. I didn't think it would matter what we were wearing. Zoe looked down at her plate, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. Dad, you don't have to explain. No, I think I do, Dominic said gently, because Mr. Williams here needs to understand something important. He turned back to Tyler. When I bought this restaurant group, I did it because I believe in creating spaces where exceptional experiences are available to everyone who can afford them, not just those who look a certain way. Tyler felt each word like a weight on his shoulders. I understand, sir. Do you? Dominic asked. Because the irony is, Tyler, I've been in your position. I worked as a waiter through college. I know what it's like to be judged by customers who think you're beneath them. I would have hoped that experience might teach people empathy, not encourage them to perpetuate the same judgments. The conversation nearby had quieted, other diners becoming aware of the exchange. Tyler could feel curious eyes on his back, but forced himself to maintain eye contact with Dominic. You're right, Tyler said, surprising himself with his candor. I became exactly what I used to resent. I thought I was protecting this place, but really, I was just... He struggled to find the words. Guarding the gate? Vanessa suggested, speaking up for the first time. Her voice was kind, but her eyes were knowing. Making sure only the right people got in? Tyler nodded, shame burning through him. Yes. Dominic studied him for a long moment. Well, at least you're honest about it now. That's a start. He glanced around the restaurant, taking in the opulent surroundings. You know, I'm making some changes to all the restaurants in the group. New policies, new training, new expectations. Tyler's stomach dropped. This was it. He was about to be fired. I believe people can change, Mr. Williams, Dominic continued, when they're willing to learn from their mistakes. Hope flickered faintly in Tyler's chest. I am, sir. Good. Dominic picked up his fork. Because starting next week, we're launching a new initiative across all Azure restaurants. Every employee will participate in bias training and cultural competency education. I was going to ask Philip to select someone from each location to help coordinate it. His eyes locked with Tyler's. I think I've found my volunteer for this location. Tyler blinked, stunned. You want me to help with this? Sometimes the people who need to learn the most can also become the most effective advocates for change, Vanessa explained. Once they understand the problem firsthand. Consider it both your punishment and your opportunity, Mr. Williams, Dominic said. Unless you'd prefer to resign? No, sir, Tyler replied quickly. I'd like to stay, and I'd be honored to help with the initiative. Dominic nodded. Good. Now, I believe we're ready for dessert. Zoe has been eyeing the chocolate soufflé. Since we sat down, the teenage girl smiled shyly. The table next to us got one. It looks amazing. Then soufflés all around, Tyler said, finding his professional demeanor again. On the house, with my compliments. As he turned to go, Dominic called after him. Mr. Williams, one more thing. Tyler turned back. Sir? That family by the door that just came in, the ones checking in with the host, make sure they get a good table too, even though they're not wearing designer labels. Tyler glanced toward the entrance where a Middle Eastern family was waiting. In another time, just hours ago, he might have directed them to a less visible table or claimed no availability. The realization made him sick to his stomach. The best available table, Mr. Ellis. I'll see to it personally. For the first time, that evening, Dominic Ellis smiled. I believe you will. 3 months later, Maison Azur hummed with even more energy than before. The clientele had diversified, though the quality of the food and service remained impeccable. Tyler moved through the restaurant, greeting guests and checking that everything ran smoothly. The changes had been substantial, but surprisingly well received. Regular customers had adapted to the more inclusive atmosphere, and new patrons brought fresh energy. Reservations were still difficult to secure, but now it was because of genuine popularity rather than artificial exclusivity. Tyler paused at the bar, where a framed article from Boston Dining hung prominently. The headline read, Maison Azur reinvents itself, how Boston's most exclusive restaurant became its most celebrated. The article detailed the changes implemented by the new owner, Dominic Ellis, and praised the restaurant for maintaining its excellence while shedding its elitist image. Quite a change from a few months ago, Philip Clark said, joining Tyler at the bar. Tyler nodded. For the restaurant or for me? Both, Clark replied with a small smile. Ellis was right about you. Once you understood the problem, you became our best advocate for change. The bias training program had been rolled out across all 15 restaurants in the Azure group, with Tyler helping to design it based on his own experience. He had shared his story, painfully at first, then with increasing confidence, as an example of how unconscious biases could affect behavior. Mr. Ellis called this morning, Clark continued. He's bringing some investors tonight. Asked specifically that you handle their table. Tyler raised an eyebrow. Testing me again? Clark laughed. I think he's past that. I think he trusts you now. The host's voice came through Tyler's earpiece. Ellis party arriving. Tyler straightened his tie and headed for the entrance where Dominic and Vanessa Ellis were just coming in with 4 others, a diverse group of well-dressed individuals whom Tyler recognized from business magazines as some of Boston's most successful entrepreneurs. Mr. Ellis, Tyler greeted them warmly. Mrs. Ellis, welcome back to Maison Azure. Dominic shook his hand, a gesture that still surprised Tyler. Tyler, good to see you. How's the new program going? Very well, sir. We're implementing it at the new location next week. Vanessa smiled. We've heard good things from the other restaurants. You should be proud. As Tyler led them to their table, the best in the house naturally, Dominic fell into step beside him. You know, Tyler, I've been thinking about expanding the initiative beyond our restaurant group, maybe consulting with other businesses facing similar issues. Tyler glanced at him curiously. That sounds like an excellent idea, sir. I'd need someone to help run it, Dominic continued. Someone who understands the problem from the inside and has proven they can change. Tyler nearly missed a step. Are you offering me a job, Mr. Ellis? Dominic smiled. Let's discuss it after dinner. I believe in second chances, Tyler, and in the power of people to grow. He gestured around the restaurant. Look at what you've helped create here. Tyler followed his gaze, seeing not just the elegant decor and satisfied patrons, but something more valuable. A place where people from all walks of life could share in the same exceptional experience without judgment. Thank you, Mr. Ellis, Tyler said quietly. Not just for the opportunity, but for the lesson. Dominic nodded. Sometimes the most important lessons come from our biggest mistakes. He clapped Tyler on the shoulder. Now, I believe Chef Laurent has prepared something. Special tonight? He has indeed, Tyler replied, slipping back into his professional role with a genuine smile. And I think you're going to love it. As he seated the Ellis party, Tyler caught Vanessa's knowing look. She leaned close as he held her chair. You know why Dominic gave you a second chance? Tyler shook his head. Because someone once gave him one, she said simply. And it changed everything. Tyler nodded, understanding at last that the true measure of a person wasn't in never making mistakes, but in how they responded when confronted with them. As he moved through the restaurant he had once sought to protect through exclusion, he saw it now for what it truly was. Not a sanctuary for the privileged few, but a place where excellence could be shared by all who sought it, regardless of appearance. And in that realization, Tyler found not just a new career path, but a new way of seeing the world. The restaurant continued its elegant dance around him, forever changed, just as he was.